Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here, and today I'm going to show you how to install this wide foot peg for the passenger side. Really enjoy these foot pegs so much just because of the comfort. When you put your foot on it, it's just so much better having more of a surface to relax your foot. I'm not doing any MotoGP, but if I ever were to do a MotoGP and maybe go to a track day, I will replace these with the stock ones so I could go on the track, because I really don't want to damage these if I were to go on the track. This is more for your touring style. If you're just daily commuting from home to work, this is a great thing to have. If you're doing more track days, really leaning on your bike like towards the edge of your tire, these will not be the pegs for you. I would just suggest just sticking with the stock ones. So I'm going to show you how to install one of these for the rear. Okay, tools needed for the job is some pliers, needle nose pliers, 2.5mm Allen key, 5mm Allen key, thread lock, and your wrench if you happen to go with this style of Allen keys. If not, regular Allen keys will work just fine. Okay, so I'm going to show you what comes in the kit. First, you're going to have your wide foot pegs here. They actually give you some assembly to do. So what you got to do is install the little red teeth that go right here. And in this bag is the teeth that go off to the side. You got your bolt that goes through the center of the foot peg to install onto the bike. Then you also got these little pins that go on the other side of the foot peg in these little notched areas, so you could adjust the foot peg on the angle that you want. Those little pins will actually lock it in place. Then on this side you got the part that actually goes on to the bike. Okay, so let's get started with the assembly. Okay, first off, what you want to do is get your peg here, and then get the side with the teeth and just put off to the side here. Slide it in. You want to make sure that you get the tapered end sticking out on this side. Okay, so when installing, you want to make sure that the tapered end is this way. You don't want to have it the other way. If you have it the other way, that's the wrong way. You don't want it to be a flat surface like that. You want to make sure it looks like this, because the screws that are going to go in are going to sit flat, so it'll give you a flat surface with the screw inside. Then what you want to do is grab your small screws and put some thread lock onto them. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. So a little bit on that screw and a little bit on this screw. Okay, once you put your thread lock on, put the screw in. Then get your 2.5mm Allen key and tighten them down. When you're doing this, you don't have to torque them down. Just make sure you just tighten them down until you feel them nice and snug. These screws are not the best of quality, meaning that the centerpiece could strip very easily. So just make sure you got it on there until it's nice and tight. Don't overdo it. So it should look like this. Now just repeat the process for both pegs. So the remaining on this one, and then the same thing for your other peg. Okay, now if you're working outside, you may want to get a towel and just lay it on the bottom underneath your foot peg. Reason is because if you look really closely to the peg, you're going to have this little bracket here at the bottom, and over here on this end, we could see it right there, there is a little ball. That's what makes the click when you move it from one end to the other. You can see that little ball sliding. It actually goes into a notch in that bracket to lock it in place. And then when it goes back on this side, you can see the little ball rolling, and you hear the click to lock it in place here. So besides that little ball inside the foot peg, there is a ball and then there's a spring inside. So when disassembling this foot peg, you want to be very careful when we're pulling it out, because that little ball, if you're not careful, will shoot out and you're going to lose it. Chances are it might fall on the towel that you set on the bottom. It may not, but we want to be very careful when removing the foot peg. As you can see, locks in place so it doesn't move around while you're riding, and then locks in place again so it doesn't move back the other way when you have a passenger on board so they could hop on. So now let's get into removing the pin. You're going to have a cotter pin right over here on this end, so we're going to remove that. Okay, to remove the cotter pin, what you're going to do is get your needle nose pliers and your regular other pliers, and you're going to want to push the pin up. Okay, so with your regular pliers, you're going to just hold on to the pin and rotate it when you need to. And with the bottom part, you're just going to undo the cotter pin. Might be tricky at first. While you're doing it, just be careful when undoing the cotter pin. It's a little tricky for me just because I have the camera in front of me while I'm doing this procedure. So just give it a turn and it should come off. Okay, once you flatten out the cotter pin like this, you want to grab your pliers and then slowly take it out, moving it around like this. put it on your towel. Okay, what we want to do now is remove the pin. So remove the pin, but hold the peg in place. Better yet, instead of here, move the peg to this side, because there's a little gap right there, but hold it there and remove the pin carefully, because we don't want to lose that little ball that's inside. Now hold the peg in place. Okay, while holding the peg, just want to make sure that you're careful when removing it, because you don't want to lose, like I said, you don't want to lose that little ball. So towards this direction while holding everything in place. Once you get it out, just hold on to it very tightly and set it off to the floor. So just hold on to it and just slowly release it. There you go. So now once you get the little ball out, you can put it off to the side. And let's get a closer look of the inside of the peg here. Okay, if you see inside the peg, there is a spring inside, and that's what gives the tension to that little ball to lock into place every time you move the peg. Now to get the little spring out, and we're going to apply it to the new peg. If you get your cotter pin that you have removed prior to the installation, just put it inside and then bring up the spring. It should come out pretty easily, and there it is. Now we're going to apply the same spring to the new peg. Okay, now you want to get that little piece that's going to go into the peg, into the spot where you have the peg located. Make sure you get the right one. If you're not too sure, just grab the peg that you just took off and look at the design. You can see that the curve on this side, get this one, the curve's on this side. So you got the right one. When you flip it over, you can see that there's little holes right there. And on the black one, kind of hard to see, but you can see the holes right there. If you grab the wrong one, it may look the same, but you could see that the hole is on this side. And when you put it in, it's not going to go in correctly. So it may look like the same, but if you look at it, on the original there is no hole there. On this one there is. So that means that this one is for the other side. Put it off to the side for now. So get the same one where they look identical. Make sure that there is no hole. Then when you flip it over, you can see that the hole is on that side. So we know that we got the right one. Okay, now let's install our spring back in. So you want to do is grab the little spring and then install it into the hole right there. A little better lighting right there, so you just want to install it back inside. So once you get it in there, next is we want to grab that little ball, but also you want to grab the bracket that it's going to sit on. And if you look at it over here, you want to make sure that this flat area goes on the flat end here. It's like this, and it just goes on like that. So when installing your piece, you want to make sure that it goes in like so, while holding everything in place. Bracket would go just like this. So let's see, if we were to put it on and we had it go like so. So let's get that little ball, install it on, and then we're going to put our bracket right over it and hold everything tightly while we install it back onto the bracket. Let's grab our little marble, pretty much what I call it. You can see there's the hole right there with the spring. What we do is just put it right on there. Make sure you're very careful because you don't want to lose that little ball. Because without that little ball, your peg will not, it'll be loose when you put it on here. It's just going to flap around. Having the little ball would lock it in place into one of these holes every time you move it around. Speaking of losing the ball, it just fell out. But luckily, it just fell right by my foot. Okay, once you got everything hold on to, so you can see I have it sandwiched between the metal bracket and the little ball here. Just want to hold it all together tightly while you install it back onto the bike, at the same time grabbing your pin. Alright, so let's see if we can get this on there without losing the marble. Just slide it in place like so. Grab your pin and slide it through. Okay, now let's give it a little test to see if everything works fine. Okay, it looks a little loose. So as you can see that there is a space gap between the piece here and the bottom area. Just because these pegs are not really for the R3. These are for an R6. I did manage to get this other one from, same thing, for the R6 to fit here. So in this application we're going to have to put our spacer to give it more of a tension, press on the little ball there. Again, sorry for the unfocusing of the camera. Camera has a difficult time of focusing when it's close up. Okay, just grab your piece. Make sure you grab your spacer. Okay, it's going to be a little tricky to put this back in, but try to do the best you can. Remember to really compress on this piece over here because you don't want to lose that little ball. Okay, as you're putting your piece back in, make sure you're compressing it at the same time pushing your spacer in. I would say this would probably be a very tricky reinstallation just because the thickness of the spacer. So I'm just trying to do the best I can while installing it. Just want to make sure you get it at a good position so you can put your pin back in place. Okay, once you get it in there, If you're having any trouble getting your pin back in, just get your hammer and just give it a few taps. It should go right in there. Like I said, this is like pretty much the trickiest part of the installation, is trying to get that spacer in. But once it's in, as you can see, it gives that proper tension onto this piece. We made it fit, made it work, and now it works perfectly fine. Goes in, it's not moving anywhere. Goes here, it's not moving in, it's pretty tight. Okay. Alright, next would be to install our cotter pin back in. Okay, let's get our cotter pin and reinstall it back in. You want to make sure you do the cotter pin process before you do anything else, just in case this wants to pop out. It won't be able to, it won't shoot the pin out. Just a good thing to put the cotter pin back in. Let's get our pliers here. Once you get your cotter pin in, just fold the tabs over. Okay, next what you want to do is grab those small pins and put one on each side. As you can see, there is a little slot groove in there to install them. So you want to put one on opposite end of each other. So here are the pins, and you just want to grab two. Just make sure you also have your towel down below just in case one falls. So we'll put one here on this side, just like so. And then we're just going to go on the opposite side of it and then pop that little guy in. So it should look like this. One on top, one here. On the opposite, there's 4 spots. So you just want to do it on opposite ends of each other. Okay, before installing your peg, you want to get your thread lock and then put a little bit on this extended long bolt. Okay, once you get it on there, just put it off to the side for now. Okay, now you want to grab your peg, get your bolt, and then put it right down in that hole right there, like so. Now we're going to install it onto the bike here. Okay, as you can see on the peg itself, we got these little notches right here. That's to give, there's so many on it just so you could get plenty of options for adjustment. And that's where the little pegs are actually going to go onto. Okay, so let's install the peg. Okay, right now you just want to do a hand tightening on the bolt. You don't want to completely tighten down the bolt. If you have a passenger person, you may want them to sit on the bike and then see their position of their foot and then just adjust accordingly. If you don't have a passenger at the moment, just tighten it down all the way, and then once you do get a passenger, loosen up the bolt and then have them sit on the bike, and then just adjust the peg accordingly to their position of their foot, and ask them what position they feel most comfortable in. Once you find that position, just tighten down the bolt. And that's it. That's all it is to the installation. Pretty easy, but at the same time kind of tricky just because of that little ball that's in there with the spring. Whenever you have a passenger, just have it like that. When you don't, just put it off to the side. And once you get a passenger again, there you go. Okay, now you just want to repeat this process on same thing on the other side. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and leave any comments below. I will have a link in the descriptions on where I had purchased this product. Thank you for watching.